This week, 4 Goonswarm Keepstars are destroyed in Delve. Legacy Coalition territory continues to be rewritten. The Imperium change up their strategy, and there is a special charity fundraising Twitch streaming event this weekend. Hello pod people, I am Frost and this is your weekly EVE Online War Update. Welcome back. So clearly the headline this week is these 4 Goonswarm Keepstars that were destroyed in Delve. But there's other stuff going on as always, and I'm going to try and cover as much of that as possible and all the stuff that is relevant to the strategy of this war. So as always, I'm going to jump up into my box, go up into the corner, and I've got my pen already. I've got Dotland in front of me. So first up, I'm going to show you the regions that are kind of relevant for this week's update. So we're going to start off in Delve, over to Querious, Catch, Imensia. I'm going to jump into Deterid, Tenerifis, include Fetherbolis, Suitonia. I remembered Caleb, Delve, and obviously we're just going to jump up to Fountain as well. So there you go. So those are the areas that we've got. So it's kind of like a fish with a big tail now. And we're going to jump straight into Imensia. Right, so Imensia has changed a lot over the last few weeks. I think it was Warped Intentions and Ready Replace. I can't even remember who was here now. It's like so long ago. But what we can see here straight up is that clearly the only people that are left from Legacy Coalition are Vindictive. So let me grab my pen. You can see there's their systems up here. And we already can see that there's a system being refed right here. So Vindy are now kind of in a position where they're the only ones left and they're not really going to be able to fight off anything that's going on here. So before we come on to Vindy though, and discuss this in a little bit more detail, what I want to show you is this. So this system, as you can see, it's the only test system in the region. And that is most likely because it is a Keepstar chain system and it's been reinforced. Now, whether this will actually get flipped, we'll have to see. But maybe what we're seeing now is a pattern of these test Keepstars that are on the chain that are no longer kind of being supported by Legacy Coalition alliances in that region and potentially going to get hit. And it'll be interesting to see who actually refed this. I don't quite know. If it's actually the Imperium, then they may not have the super capital forces to be able to deal with it. But if it's the third parties like Wrecking Crew, Deepwater Hooligans, Sound Mind, all these guys that have been kind of very active in these areas, if it's these guys, they do have the capital forces and super capitals to be able to do that. So obviously that would be a declaration of war. But if anybody has any info on that, I'd be really, really interested to hear about that. So that kind of covers that. So there's a few things that got destroyed here. So we had a Rosada Regnum Satio. So obviously I like to mention the Satios are the kind of important industrial structures. One of those died in JKWP, so down there. We then had 2 Federation Uprising Fortizars that were destroyed. There was one in GM. I can't even remember where GM is. And ITAC N. So let me just quickly see if I can search those very quickly because I can't actually remember. I was looking at so many structures recently. There we go. So GM is over there. There we go. And then ITAC. So we've got IGN and GM. So these were 2 Federation Uprising Fortizars, Fortizar and Asbel. They were destroyed by Dreadbomb. So Dreadbomb are very, very active in the area. And the thing that's worth mentioning is that Dreadbomb used carriers and Lokis for the one in GM TAC, but the one in I-N, they brought supers, carriers, even a lone Titan, and then a Macarial fleet. And all of that power, all of that presence is going to be too much for Vindy. Vindy are not going to be able to hold on their own against Dreadbomb. And now we know that Dreadbomb are actually active in this area. So Wrecking Crew, which is kind of the coalition of alliances, of which there's Dreadbomb. I can't even remember all the others right now, but Dreadbomb is kind of the big one of the main guys. So these guys, have now got presence in Imensia. They're bringing supers into this region, so that means they can potentially project into Vindy. So coming on to Vindy, I talked about earlier that they're the only people left. Now, if we actually look at Deterid, I didn't miss this last week. If you might have remembered, Vindy held all of these systems. And apparently Razor said, no, we're not having that anymore. and have actually taken them back. So Vindy no longer have a presence in Detroit, because I was kind of speculating that maybe they'll get a little bit closer to Fire Coalition. Fire Coalition being made up of XIX, Unreal Alliance, Razor, and there's a couple of other alliances as well. So that isn't the case, clearly, because Razor have gone, no, we're pushing you out of Detroit. So if we go back to Immensia, Vindy still have a presence, though, in Tenerifis. And so far, this was refed about a week, 2 weeks ago in the south region here. But since then, it's kind of been left alone. Now, how long that will last will remain to be seen, because Requiem Eternal, who used to own all of these regions up here, have now been completely removed from Tenerifis. And in fact, there was a Requiem Eternal Fortizar that was destroyed by a Nyx in QRBN, QRBN being right there. And if I actually jump to the kill board, you will see once again, it is one of these situations where it's basically a sole Nyx. So, the third parties, this, in this case, Ministry of Inappropriate Footwork, the third parties are loving all this structure bashing, where they can just undock a solo super and just YOLO it pretty much on their own. I mean, this is probably even his alts, I would assume, or her alts, you never know. Yeah, that just shows how basically all these structures now are just getting no support whatsoever and are just being taken out for some easy kills. Right, so jumping back to our map, so we've done Tenerifis. That was pretty much all there was to report on Tenerifis. We're going to go back to our universe map, and we're going to move over to Impasse. So if we go over to Impasse, Requiem Eternal, as I said, have lost all of their territory in Tenerifis. They're also now under attack in Impasse. So Wrong, who is, I've got to remember their name now, Wrong are, what could possibly go wrong? There we go. So what could possibly go wrong? Had a couple of territories over in Querious. So clearly things got a little bit too hot for them in Querious, and obviously Brave, and there's been fighting going on there and stuff. So they've decided to set up shop up here. Now this was all Requiem Eternal territory, and as you can see, that's gone. This, I believe, was Requiem as well. That is gone. And you can see right here, we've got some iHubs that have been cleared. And once again, down the bottom here in the pink one, I believe this is another of these test Keepstars. So it's the sole test system in the whole region, which would indicate that it's a Keepstar chain system. So this is where I'm saying, potentially there's a pattern here of these Keepstars being attacked in the point of view of basically the Imperium doing a doom clock back towards Legacy Coalition. Brave obviously have been pretty much totally cleared out now. Red Alliance seem to be setting up shop here. A whole bunch of stuff did die in Impasse, so let me clear that up. Brave lost a Prometheus Fortizar, which is also always worth mentioning. There we go, in 40IV-X. So that was in the region they abandoned, but it's a nice little juicy kill. Initiative brought Macarials for this, and did they bring a few carriers as well? Possibly. No, they just brought bombers and Macarials for this one. So that was in, let me bring my pen up again. That was over here in 40IX. Now, Requiem Eternal have lost 4 Fortizars in the last week in Impasse. This is primarily due to Init. Init have been kind of cleaning house and structure bashing, which isn't really their thing normally, but they've been doing it. What's interesting is they brought Macarials to pretty much everything. Now, in my previous videos, I've called Initiative like Ship Divas because they always bring something different. So I can only assume that they haven't got their spring collection sorted yet. They're still trying to decide what they're going to have for the spring. So for now, they're kind of using Macarials as their sweatpants, just throwing on the Macarials to go out and do some work before spring arrives, and they're going to have a whole new doctrine. So what did die? So DTAC L. I know there was one in DDI, so I'm going to mention that one straight away. There was one in DTAC L. There was one in YFW up here, and there was one in 6 Meow. I can't even remember where 6 Meow is now. There it is, 6 Mo. There we go. So those 4 Fortizars died. So lots and lots of structure bashing going on in Impasse at the moment, and Requiem Eternal are out on their own, and I can't see them surviving for very much longer. Especially as Red Alliance seem to be quite keen on Impasse. They've been taking a lot of territory. In fact, when we come to Catch, you see they've been getting themselves rather well established there as well. What we're going to do is we're going to jump very quickly down to Fetherbolis. So let's go straight to Fetherbolis. There we go. So Fetherbolis has been pretty quiet. The only thing that actually died was an already replaced Fortizar, which died, whoops, let me do that again, which died in VF-FN6. And it died to Of Sound Mind. Now, I didn't really know who Of Sound Mind were, but I got informed that they're a bunch of wormholers. And they've been working quite a lot with Deepwater Hooligans, who have got obviously the structure up here in JI-LGM, and they've been projecting into Fetherbolis. They haven't been very active this week, but clearly they've been working a lot with Of Sound Mind, and those guys decided to drop in with some Leshaks and take out the Fortizar there. It's also worth mentioning as well, in Impasse earlier on, one of the Fortizars actually died to a Goon Ferox fleet. So Goon Swarm decided to go for a little bit of a trip and went all the way over to Impasse to kill a Fortizar with some Feroxes. So there you go, that's pretty much it for Fetherbolis. So it's still pretty quiet in this area for now. Now let's move on to Catch. Now Catch, as you know, is just like Immensia, is one of those areas that has really changed a lot. And what we're seeing now is that Dracaris and Red Alliance, both of these being aligned with the Imperium, Red being Russian, Dracaris being Chinese. They've kind of pretty much pushed Brave completely out. So Brave now just has 3 systems left. And the most notable one, which I'm going to surround in pink, is GE-TAC-H8JV. Now this is the capital system for Brave. They have a Keepstar there as well. And as you can see from the orange glow around it, it's actually been reinforced. So if that's the case, then that becomes another Doom Clock scenario for the Brave Keepstar this time, if it actually gets flipped. So we'll have to see how that plays out. In terms of structures, it was all pretty quiet. The only thing that kind of died was a Fortizar belonging to Warped Intentions. In OGL, once again to Init Max. Let me just double check that. Yeah, it was definitely Init. And the other thing I need to mention as well was that last week I talked about up the north here, KA6D, that the test Fortizar died, and I said it wasn't a big deal, it's probably just cleaning house. Someone actually did point out to me, and I did forget about this, that KA6 and this whole area up the top here, is on the jump network towards HighSec, or towards LowSec, should I say. So that then branches into like Detal and around that area. So that's kind of the main logistics route in and out of Catch, and then into obviously to the other regions further south. So there is a strategic value to that Fortizar actually dying. So I just want to clarify that up from last week. And and then the last thing that happened, which actually happened earlier in the week, it's worth mentioning French Connection. So French Connection have been trying to establish themselves in EX6-AO. And this is relevant when we come to Fountain, and this will make more sense. But the interesting thing is that they tried to drop a Fortizar here, so clearly to start setting themselves up as a base of operations, but that got killed during its anchoring process. So it looks like French Connection haven't got an easy route into here. They're going to have to fight over it before they can get themselves implanted, because there's still some people willing to fight over Catch, apparently. Right, so that wraps it up for Catch. So before I go on any further, what I wanted to talk about very quickly is I mentioned during the introduction that there's a charity event this weekend. And let me just scroll down so I got my details. There we go. So the charity event that's happening is called Spawn Together. And basically it's a bunch of EVE Online Twitch streamers who are fundraising for Able Gamers. Now, if you're not familiar with Able Gamers, they're a charity that provides custom-made controllers for people with disabilities, and also advocate for disability options in games such as colorblind options, subtitles, key remapping, all that kind of good stuff. Now, they will mostly be playing EVE Online games. I think somebody may not be, someone's playing something else. But Rhane is going to be there. She's doing a 12-hour marathon stream from Saturday 20th at 1800 UTC right through till 6 a.m. UTC the next day. That's on the morning of Sunday 20th. On Saturday the 20th, we got Suitonia, we've got Manic Velocity. I'm going to mispronounce his name, Erstschlag. And then on Sunday 21st, we've got ScottishDex, we've got LiaraPlays. Potentially there's more coming along as well. They're going to be doing all kinds of giveaways. and I'm going to put links in the description to all of their Twitch streams and also their published times. These aren't 100% certain, but it should give you an idea of when these streams are going to be online. So do go check that out. Please go there, support them. It's a really good charity to support. I know Rhane has done work with them in the past. And yeah, so just wanted to bring that all to your attention. Now, back to our regular programming. And we are going to go to Esoteria. So let's go Esoteria. Here we go. Right, so Esoteria, if you remember from last week, essentially Bastion had been kind of been moving in to Esoteria. So once again, let me grab my pen. Originally I talked about this soft border up here. This is where Bastion were. They've now kind of stretched themselves and are kind of starting taking systems or flipping iHubs in this area. They're not necessarily apparently interested in keeping all of them. They just want to remove kind of test infrastructure, remove sino-jammers, remove jump bridges, remove all the ADN bonuses that they get from the iHubs, all that kind of stuff. Sorry, all the ratting bonuses, etc. What is interesting though is two things. The first one is Evictus. So Evictus are in Fetherbolis, and if I actually jump back to Fetherbolis quickly, you'll see they're down here in the south. They've got quite a few systems, and they've now stretched into Esoteria, and they've taken this whole kind of area around here. So once again, I think Evictus, they're pretty much out here on their own now, in this area, like I said, with already replaced down in Fetherbolis. So I think they're kind of using this as a target of opportunity that now tests have gone, that they will try and provide some kind of defense. But the one that's really worth noting is Army of Mango. So the Army of Mango, if you're not familiar with these guys, they're fairly recent alliance. They actually they're Chinese alliance that came from the Serenity Chinese server about 2 years ago to the day. I think it was April 2019. They set up shop on Tranquility. And they've been living in Tenerifis and in Omist. And whilst they're not part of Legacy Coalition, they are blue to them. And it looks like they've kind of made a deal here. And as a consequence of that, so you can already see the Army of Mangoes have taken some iHubs here. But right here in R-ARKN, the Army of Mango have actually dropped a Keepstar. So they are serious about coming to Esoteria. Now, I would assume that Legacy Coalition are seeing this as an opportunity to kind of take on Bastion. Now, the thing to be aware of here is the difference between Russian and Chinese time zones. Everyone kind of thinks they're kind of the same because they're in the same geographical region when you kind of look at the east of Russia. But China only has one time zone, and that's +8 UTC, whilst Russia has, I think, 11 time zones. It's a ridiculous number, but they're mostly +3. So Moscow and St. Petersburg, which are on the west side of Russia, are both in +3, and they account for kind of the majority of the Russian alliances. And then as you go further east and towards Siberia, then you start to get into the Chinese time zones and closer to the Chinese time zones. So it'll be interesting to see whether there's going to be enough overlap here for Army of Mango, because Army of Mango, at 8 p.m. Russian time, Moscow time, it's like 1 a.m. For Chinese time zones. So it may actually still be too late for them to be able to help. So once again, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, the last thing I want to mention for Esoteria, Caleb, I'm trying to remember, right, is a DTX 8-M. So this is a test Keepstar system. There is another one over on the west here in, I think it's 0-06F. And we now have a Doom clock running on this. So now Bastion have now flipped the iHub, and the Doom clock will be ticking. 0-06XF already has a Sino-jammer in place. So I think it's a good sacks on that system. So they can potentially reinforce that again if they want to. They did get put into Shield, I think, a week or two ago. So it'll be interesting once again to see if this all ties in with all of these Keepstar systems that we're seeing getting refed in these regions. So I think that wraps it up for Esoteria. So now we're going to get on to the last three remaining systems. The first one I'm going to cover is, let's go to Fountain. So let's cover Fountain. So the reason why I want to cover Fountain is because if you remember, Federation Uprising managed to grab this this whole area here, but they didn't have the whole constellation. And French Connection had this system and this system, which were the last two remaining in the constellation. But they've been pushed out, and I believe they had help from Test over this, because Federation Uprising is mostly US time zone, and French Connection, by the name, I think you could probably figure out, it is mostly EU time zone. And so, but they have managed to push them out. So now French Connection have now one system left in U-S, and then all the way over to the east here on the border with Cloud Ring, they're in J5A-1X or IX. So this is why I kind of found Catch interesting, in that it really does look like French Connection, now they've been pushed out of those two systems, which are kind of pretty much their home. I would imagine they're potentially looking at Catch and setting up shop there. The moment that obviously Wrecking Crew and all of the alliances in Wrecking Crew stay kind of neutral towards French Connection, but we'll have to see, and the Imperium as a whole, we have to see how that plays out. So that's pretty much it for Fountain, but I just wanted to point this out with sort of the friction that's been going on between Federation Uprising and French Connection. So let's now go to Querious, and we're going to go and check out Querious. So let me just scroll down. Yeah, so the first thing with Querious is I said a week ago, and I said the week before, I was really surprised at the amount of territory that Brave were taking. And I was concerned as to their ability to actually hold that territory. But as we look at the map today, the iHub map, it's all looking pretty secure. It looks like they've managed to kind of set up shop and get themselves fairly well established. In fact, nothing is even reinforced. So yeah, well done to Brave there. They did seem to do well, and I am surprised, but good job on them. So that's pretty much what's going on with Brave. Obviously Severance, as we know, have kind of been settled here for quite a while now. So let's talk now Keepstars. So there's 3 Imperium Keepstars, in particular Goonswarm Keepstars. There's one in GOP, there's one in W6V-VM, and then there's this final one in F20Y. And F20Y is the hotspot at the moment. So the reason why, as if you remember from my videos last week, is it allows Goonswarm to project and jump super capitals out of Delve into F20Y and then into these other 2 structures. It also allows them potentially to send reinforcement fleets and bridge fleets in to be able to deal with Brave and Severance if they wanted to fight in Querious, and also protect their timers. So the Doom Clocks have all been running. Now this one in F20Y, let me clear that and just highlight it again. F20Y, the Doom Clock's there, the Sino Jammer is in place. It's already been reinforced into shields, and tonight, that is Monday the 15th at 21:27, the armor timer is going to come into play. Now, as we'll see from Delve, the Keepstars there just kind of died uncontested, but this one, things are different. As I understand, I haven't been able to confirm this myself, I've not seen it with my own eyes, but both sides seem to confirm that a whole bunch of super capitals, and I don't have an exact number, but it's in the hundreds, have gated into F20Y and warped to the Keepstar in order to be able to set up a defense on the armor timer. So they've got in there early, they've got their supers in early, and obviously, if you're not aware, the armor timer is the best timer to fight on a super capital fleet, because you can tether your supers on the Keepstar until you decide to engage. If you want to disengage, you just stop shooting, you automatically tether, and even if the Keepstar armor timer is won by the opposition, you can still dock up and get out later. So yeah, it's interesting to see how that's going to play out. Yeah, if it gets reinforced, then obviously the Imperium have got to decide whether they want to fight over the kill timer, or otherwise they have to, jump everything back out. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, and whether PAPI actually form for that tonight. If they do, potentially we've got another all-night situation, and we could potentially end up with the same scenario that we saw with M2-XFE, with server meltdowns and all kinds of other things. So keep your eyes peeled for that, and we'll see how that plays out. So that covers us for Querious. So that leaves now Delve. So let's jump to Delve. There we go, there's Delve. And let me see what I need to talk about Delve. Right, so first up, 4 Keepstars went down. So the 4 Keepstars that died were all in this constellation down the bottom here. We had ZXB, let me change color. There we go. ZXB, S-6, 5-TAC-C, and then finally the big one for PAPI specifically was M2-XFE. So if you've been out of the loop for the last 2 months, that's where all the PAPI super capitals were trapped for approximately 2 and a bit months. Some did manage to get out early. There was a big bubble camp there, and so M2-XFE will go down as the, up until this point anyway, the system that has seen the most super capital losses of all time in EVE Online. And the Keepstar died, so it died uncontested like all of the others. PAPI have been bringing in their super capital fleets and shooting with Titans and super carriers and some carriers as well, and then bringing in their subcaps for support. What is to note here is that at the very spot, the bubbles above the Keepstar, PAPI have dropped to Fortizar. The reason for doing so is this means now that all super capitals that were trapped in those bubbles can now log in, and as soon as they log in, they're in Keepstar, it's Fortizar range, and automatically tether. So it doesn't matter how much damage they have, whether they're missing modules, etc. They are now completely safe to log in. So that's recovered any of the remaining super capitals and capitals that were trapped in M2-XFE. So it is now 100% over. So that covers the Keepstars and what's happening in M2-XFE. The other thing that's been happening is Goonswarm have started changing their strategy. So the first thing they've done is they've changed the timers on their structures. Now, this actually takes about 30 days to take effect. So they started this 30 days ago, and in the last week, I believe, the times have been changed. So all the structure timers used to be in the US time zone, the same as all of their SOVs, so their iHubs and TCUs. And now they've moved them over to EU. So they've decided that it's probably more favorable for them to fight in the EU time zone over structures and then leave the sovereignty to the US time zone. So interesting little factlet there of a decision that was made a month ago that we're now seeing play out. In the meantime, Imperium has started reinforcing iHubs that have Keepstars in them that are on the doom clock. So I can give you some examples. So we've got a UAXO has been refed in the past, PUIG has been refed, 39P I think got refed as well, PDE I believe has got a Keepstar in there. So all of these have been reinforced and fought over SOV warfare. Now so far PAPI have been able to keep these, but whether they continue to maintain that remains to be seen. And then the last thing, two more things. Another thing worth mentioning as well is that last week I've talked about the jump bridge in T5ZI that belongs to PAPI and how it was going down to QY1E and then that got scrubbed. So then they moved it to, let me clear that again. So then they moved it to 5-TAC-C right there. And then literally in the last day, they've gone, no thank you, we don't want that anymore. And now they've bridged it all the way over to F2OY. Now this looks like it's miles away and it looks like it's too long for a jump bridge, but you have to remember that fake Delve, which is down here, is actually that part of Querious that isn't actually accessible from Querious, but only from Delve. And if in fact, I'll just jump quickly to the Querious map just to clarify that. You will see the distances kind of make a lot more sense. So you can see that right here, there we go, there's 1DH and there's 3-TAC-D there. So this whole area right here, 3-TAC-D actually connects, 1DH connects up there, and then 3-TAC-D connects right next door to 1DQ. So it's actually a very short bridge to actually get to there. So a little bit of a sort of trivia there, but just so you kind of understand why that jump bridge is so long. But the main thing is as I said, T5Z now connects to F2OY, and this is going to allow, if we do have this big fight tonight on the armor timer, and then if potentially it does go to a kill timer, it means that it makes it much easier to reinforce from PAPI subcaps as they can just jump through a jump bridge. So last couple of things to mention. Last thing to mention is a Titan died, because I always try and mention Titans dying. This one died on the AJI beacon. So for those of you not familiar with it, there is a beacon on a Fortizar here that belongs to PAPI, and it's been set up as a bait beacon. And it has been very fruitful. Now, obviously, the top kill that it got was a Ragnarok. So you can see here, this Ragnarok jumped literally about 10 hours ago, onto the beacon. The beacon is bubbled, and Tess were able to just jump straight in and kill it, as well as Pandemic Horde, and everybody else just jumped in and got a kill there. But this beacon has been very, very valuable, and I need to point this out for Imperium members. You need to be so careful. You don't want to jump using your capacitor wheel. You always want to jump to a toon by right-clicking on their name, so it's someone you trust. And as you can see, we've lost a Ragnarok, a Wyvern, 2 Nyxes, a Hell, and at least 1, possibly 2 Rorquals have died in the last week to this bait beacon. So it's something to be very, very careful of. Both sides have made silly mistakes, but this has been a bad week for this bait beacon. Also, Imperium is still getting their stuff walked off from 1DQ. If you remember, I've mentioned in the past, NC Dot have been very, very good at offering fleets to supers that are undocking in 1DQ and warping them off to an asteroid belt and then dread bombing them. So that's been happening as well. Right, so that covers that, and that gives us up to date on the war update. Last thing to mention, I like my propaganda art. Now, to me, propaganda has kind of changed. It's now all memes with like dinosaur heads and bee heads and stuff. But I really do love the old-fashioned kind of, well, old-fashioned, but the old school propaganda artwork. And I wanted to highlight this. This is from Deepwater Hooligans, who have been producing this awesome looking artwork. So I just wanted to give that a bit of a showcase. And if you've got this kind of artwork and you're still producing this kind of stuff, send it my way. I'll give it a little mention on the channel and show it off for you. Right, so that's everything from me. As always, please like, subscribe, hit the bell icon for notifications. I think that's everything. Yeah, join my Discord. Mention me in your Corp Discord. Mention me in your Alliance Discord. And I may be on Talking on Station soon. I'm just waiting for confirmation on that. In which case I may see you there in the next week. If not, I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. That's all from me. Bye for now.